Hello friends, this is a garage woodworker, and tonight we're going to talk about wood. Today is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays we either do a very small project or we talk about tools or techniques or things like that. Tonight we're going to talk about wood. If you're a woodworker, of course you have to work with wood, and there are some things you need to know, especially if you're a beginning woodworker. I have some samples here of wood, and this is what we call dimensional lumber. It is in general used for rough work, not for furniture and things like that, even though you can use it for furniture. And this is finished lumber that can be used for fine work. So this is finished wood, and it is encased in plastic to protect it. This happens to be mahogany, and it's at surface 4 sides. What does that mean? Is that you don't need to have any tools to prep this wood. Unlike, for example, this, which as you see is not surfaced. This could not be a finished edge. But I like those imperfections and I keep them as non-finished edges for my projects. However, if you wanted to make a table or a cabinet or something that looked really nice, this will not be an appropriate edge. And then it says actual size and then gives dimensions. 3/4 by 3.5 by 4. Now, that's very interesting, and one would wonder why it says actual size. And the reason for that is that when you go and buy lumber in your lumber yard, actually the dimensions you buy are not the true dimensions. For example, this is sold as a 1/6 by some other dimension. So the first dimension is the width of the board, that's the one. The second dimension is the height of the board, and the third dimension is the length of the board, the height if you have the board like this. Now something interesting is happening here. The first 2 numbers are in inches and the last number is in feet. So this will be 1/6 inches by 6 feet. However, in reality it is not 1/6. Let's measure it and show you what we mean here. As you can see, this is 3/4, not 1, so it's short of 1. And this dimension is 5.5, not 6. This is very common when you buy lumber, because the dimensions they give you are for the rough lumber, not for the finished, the lumber when it is cut from the mill. So this is 3/4 by 5.5 in true dimensions, and that is true for all dimensional lumber. For example, this is a 2x10 by 2. And again, imagine what? If we take our trusty tape here and we look at the dimension, this is 1.5. And this is a little over 9, it's not even 9.5. But this is a very uneven edge, so that's probably the reason for that. And again, this is 2 feet. So when you buy lumber, remember the first 2 numbers refer to the 2 dimensions of the wood, width and height, and the last number is the length of the board. The first 2 numbers are inches, the last number is feet. Now there are many boards you can buy finished. For example, this is a 1/4 round, and it's called a 1/4 round because if you look at it from this size, it is a 1/4 of a circle. If you put 4 1/4 rounds together, you're going to make 1 circle. As you can see here, I have half of a circle. And that is, by the way, a neat trick if you want to build something that has a perfect circumference. You can just glue 1/4 rounds together and make that happen. Now, what other wood can you buy? You can buy plywood. This is an example of a sheet of plywood. And plywood comes in many grades. This is a rough side of the plywood, and this is considered a finished size, which means that you can build a cabinet or something and this will take stain or it will take paint or anything else. Why it's called plywood is because it has plies. If you come close and see, you're going to see there are actually 3 pieces of wood here pressed together, And that is the advantage of the plywood. It is very strong for its size and fairly inexpensive because you use not the best quality of wood except for the one side. And in very cheap plywood you're going to see both sides be unfinished like this. When you buy plywood, you need to make sure to avoid some things. For example, here, this is a fairly good quality plywood, but you can see there is a void there. One of the plies is not perfect. So the more of those that you have, the worse the quality, and you need to look at the store and try to avoid plywood that has a lot of voids in it. This is another example of plywood. In this case, however, this is finished on both sides. This sometimes is used to make drawers, for example, very commonly because of its width and because the middle ply is kind of wider than the other two plies. You can use that to make bottoms of drawers and things like that. And it has a fairly nice finish overall with details. So if you use it on top of something like a table, it can look like hardwood when in reality it is not. But the disadvantage is that you have to edge it. You have to use something to hide this edge because clearly you see that this is not solid wood. So plywood has a lot of uses, and it's usually sold in pieces. This one used to be a 4x8, and that's a very common size. This one was smaller, maybe a 2x4. What was this? Yeah. So depending on your project, you will buy a different type of plywood. Cedar is a very nice wood to work with, but it tends to be expensive if you buy it as planks of cedar wood. So one way I got around it, and I've built many projects, is I bought dog-eared cedar, which is intended to be used in fences outside. Cedar has very good anti-rot qualities, and it is very easy to finish, and when you're done no one will know where it came from. And this is $1.25 per board, and it usually is at a 6-foot board. So it is a 6-foot board, and it measures 5 3/4 by 1/2. So this is a great board. You can cut it, and this one is remnants of something else we built, and you can cut it in the dimension that will work the best for you, and finish it, sand it, and it will look awesome. It smells really, really good, and it is a great way to get cedar in an inexpensive way. Our last example will be particle board. If you look at it close by, it looks very uniform. It doesn't look like normal wood, and it is actually pieces of wood that we can take from a sawmill, for example, compress together and add glue to it, and it is very light, and an equally sized piece of wood will be much heavier. This unfortunately is very common use for cheap furniture, and the problems that this has is it doesn't take screws or nails very well. It's very easy to split, but it has good strength. It is very hard for its width to bend, as you can see. And if you learn how to use on it, you can actually put a veneer on top of it and make it look very nice. And for some applications it's ideal. Again, the biggest advantage of this is that it is very, very light, and you can buy fairly large pieces and they will not weigh very much. Another manufactured wood will be MDF, which stands for medium density fiberboard, and it is also very similar to this but much heavier. It has a lot of tensile strength, in other words it doesn't separate very much, but it has several problems with this. It will not take screws and nails as well, and it tends to split. In addition, it is extremely heavy. However, it tends to be very inexpensive, and if you are to make projects that you don't want to spend a lot of money, it takes paint very well. You cannot stain it because there is nothing really to stain, but it takes paint extremely well, and a lot of times inexpensive cabinets are made using MDF boards. So this is kind of Know Your Wood 101. This is the most common types of wood you're going to come across. By no means is everything you will ever come across. But I hope this is a good primer that will help you as you get into the woodworking process in selecting wood and making the right choices. Now, a lot of times you can find free wood on Craigslist, or definitely when you use pallets. We use pallets a lot. We've made a lot of pallets projects in the channel that you can watch the videos, and definitely pallet wood is a source of free wood that you can use over and over. And of course, woodworkers are pack rats. You can see I keep all kinds of different sizes and shapes and types of wood because I never know when I'm going to use it. So I'm very frequently get fasted for keeping wood that I will never use. But again, you never know when it might be time to use a piece of wood. Let me know if you liked this video, if you learned something from it. If you did, smash the like button. If you didn't, you know what to do. If you really like us, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us keep going and producing videos for you. Share the video so we can grow, and also make comments as you wish. Thank you for another episode of The Garage Woodworker, and I will see you soon.